Hi guys, thanks for joining me for a bit of an interesting unpacking, unwrapping video. I've saved up a few parcels with some new additions to the tab reference collection, and I thought I'd bring you along for the ride. The manuals we'll be taking a look at span about 60 years of British Army doctrine and weapons, and there's some quite interesting and rare stuff in here. So let's dive in. So, this is an armoured fighting vehicle identification handbook, dating from the mid to late 60s. So let's take a look at this. Almost ashamed to take it out, really. We have introduction, why recognition is important, from the cockpit, light and shade, first light, last light. Then we have various sections on Russian, American, British and French tanks, and some other nations as well. Ooh, and obsolete armour, interesting. Wow, cool. Some or all of these features will be on any AFV. Nice little stylised Soviet emblem. Oh cool, look at that. National characteristics. Suspension types, medium and heavy. And turret types as well. Wow. Look at this, I love this. This is so cool. T10. With the specification and sort of like stats of the tank. Air recognition features, so you can spot them from the air. PT-76 BRDMs. Now we're into the British section. Oh wow, look at this. Really interesting the way it's been stylised. Conqueror, Centurion, Saladin, the Ferret, Abbott SBG. Now we're into the American section with the M103, predominantly used by the Marine Corps, I think, if I remember rightly. Really unique shape, and the various patterns probably, yeah. Ah, cool. An M56. So we did a video on this. That's really cool to see. Then we're into French. Various armour cars. SPG. And the AMX 30. So there we go, really cool. Can't wait to take a proper look at that and go through that in a future video. Right, let's see what else we have. Next up, something a little bit smaller. So this is a British Army Infantry Training Pamphlet or Manual, Volume 4 Tactics, and it's the Infantry Battalion in Battle, and it dates from 1952. A little bit of squiggling and doodling, but it's in pretty good shape. Picked this up predominantly just to get an idea of how battalions were structured post-war, and this lays out that in complete detail. Everything from sort of like pioneer platoons to anti-tank platoons to mortar platoons, and then how the actual battalion was used in battle as well. So defence, attack, some nice doodles of a cat and a horse, I think. Extra value. but the majority of it, I believe, is pretty much clear of any doodling. So yeah, so it's just superficial. A little bit in the back there. Can't quite read that. Someone's been busy. Oh, a cow. Nice. Yeah, so got all sorts of interesting stuff, sort of like how to move to an airfield, transit camps, move into the front, various types of warfare in deserts, jungles, organising assault crossing across a river. Really interesting stuff. So it's sort of the bare bones of how an army moves and fights at an intermediate sort of unit level. So yeah, that'll be interesting to take a look at. So, a little bit of doodling, but pretty good. Exceptionally well wrapped. So what have we got here? Ah, cool. We have a later manual for the Sterling submachine gun. So let's move that out of the way for a second, come back to that one. Take a look inside this one. We have Infantry Training Volume 2, Skill at Arms, Personal Weapons, pamphlet number 9, All Arms, 1975. So in the collection now we've got a few of the manuals for the Sterling. We have one for the early 50s, and we also have one of the more detailed sort of armourers pamphlets from the 70s as well. So we'll have these to compare. I think it's really interesting to see how these pamphlets sort of evolved throughout the Cold War. So they went from sort of like a book to more of a loose pamphlet which could be kept together by treasury tags or in a binder, or even just stapled as this one has been. There it is, the L2A3. How to deploy the buttstock, how to disassemble. Lots of great photographs. Yeah, so this one will be a really interesting one to sort of go through on its own and also compare to some of the other manuals that we have on the Sterling. And there's a final little note about the L34A1. Very cool. Again, very nicely wrapped, bag in a bag. So, this is a bit special. This is the provisional pamphlet for the 3.5-inch rocket launcher, which was the rocket launcher known as the M20 in American service, the Super Bazooka. And this replaced the Piat in use as the primary British infantry anti-tank weapon for about a decade, until some other weapons came in, which we'll talk about in a later video. So this was put together in 1951, and then it was revised in April 1952. So this is really interesting because I have a copy of the final published manual for the 3.5-inch rocket launcher, So it'll be really, really interesting to go through this and compare what changed between April 52 and when the manual was finally published and issued out to troops. So we've got lots of diagrams, and it's in this sort of foolscap, full page, rather than the later sort of smaller size. So let's just have a quick flick through, and just like all of these, we'll cover this in a proper video in the future where we'll go through some of the individual parts, pull out some interesting bits and compare them to other manuals that we have in the tab reference collection. And these are some of the sort of sight reticles that you would see through the weapon's sight. So you can sort of see where you would aim in the reticle depending on the range of the enemy target. Really interesting. Don't believe all of these made it into the final manual. Interesting to note that this doesn't actually include any images of the actual rocket launcher itself, which the final pamphlet obviously does. Yeah, it's lots of interesting stuff in there, so that'd be great to take a look at in more detail. And then finally, we have two pretty interesting manuals. We have an original handbook for the .303 Hotchkiss machine gun, dating from 1917, and an anti-tank tactics booklet as well. This is really interesting because it's got a completely different finish to anything else that was published at the time. It's sort of vinyl. Really interesting, published in 53. Lots of interesting stuff about how to tackle tanks in the field, so everything from anti-tank guns, even from the 17-pounder down to stuff like the 3.5 inch, which we just looked at the provisional manual for, and as well as the Energa and the Piat itself. So the Piat's still mentioned, wouldn't go out of service until the mid 50s. Yeah, so this is really interesting. It goes into the various tactics and ways of slowing and stopping enemy armour. It's got some really interesting little diagrams. Yeah, really interesting. And then the Hotchkiss is especially cool because it's also a provisional, but it has some gorgeous pull-out diagrams. And handwritten notes. So it'd be great to take a look at those in closer look and try and work out what has been added. How to pack the Hotchkiss onto a horse. It's really cool just to see how the way these pamphlets was put together and the way they were laid out changed over the years. There we go. Some more notes, and then a bit more of a diagram of the weapon itself.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you managed to make it this far, then you're definitely as interested in this stuff as I am. So these manuals and this sort of primary material is really important because we can learn how the weapons were actually intended to be used. We'll have videos on all of these items in the future. Please like, share, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you enjoy our videos, please consider supporting us via Patreon. A link to that is at the end of the video and in the description box below. It's support from patrons that enable us to pick up items like these and share them in videos. So thanks again, see you in the next one.